This is Open Source Friday, as I normally chat with a maintainer every Friday, except for times that I'm busy. And I chat with them about different projects they've created, why they've created it, and they do a little demo for us. So today we have Yaniv on, and he created a project called Memphis, and he's going to tell us all about that. So Yaniv, hey, how are you doing?
I'm great, thank you. Happy to be here. Happy to be here. Always great to have a chat with you, Rizal.
Awesome. Yes, it's great to chat with you too. I love chatting with you on the Twitter space. I learned so much about message brokers and like microservice architecture. So really excited about that. Why don't you introduce yourself? And then for anyone in the chat, please tell us where you're calling in from, or where you're listening in from, I mean to say.
Sure. So my name is Yaniv. I live in Israel, born and raised in Israel. I co-founded Memphis alongside with my three other friends from college. Basically, I've been a developer since like all my life, basically, and that's my passion. Went through backend to front end to data, and actually mainly for the past 6 years, I've been definitely focusing on the data world and specifically on data engineering, data warehousing, building data pipelines, data frameworks for startups to enterprises to various organizations. And me and my friends thought it would be, we had a shared dream of building our own company, building a product that will create some impact over the world. And we thought that a message broker, which is today considered to be the modern nervous system for the modern organizations, would be a great place to do it. So that's me.
Nice. I love that you started um, this with your friends too. Like that's the dream, I think, as a developer.
Wow, that definitely, really. If someone asked me what would be my biggest advice before building your own startup and your own company, your own project, even do it with people that you um, first of all that you love, that you would love to drink beer with them, and not just like they're writing great code or something like that. They're really smart. They has to be friends, and do it with partners. I mean, you can't do it yourself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It takes like a village too for starting a business.
Definitely, definitely.
Awesome. And then I had already asked you in the Twitter space about learning to code when you were young, but could you also share it on Twitch as well? Like share that story about learning to code when you were like I think you said 9 or 10 years old.
Yeah, so my father like aimed me towards being a lawyer, and all of a sudden I received an HTML book from a neighbor that really changed my life, changed my like created my personal passion, and really fortunately I was uh, my I would say my destiny revealed to me that, I mean, it sounds like a bit quirky, but definitely code and building and developing, all of it started from the very same, like the very old HTML book that an old neighbor gave me, and that's where my journey started.
Awesome. Wait, does your neighbor ever know that you became like a developer and startup founder after he gave you that book?
You mean if I knew
Or
that I
no,
would be a fan?
did your neighbor know? Because I know your neighbor gave you the HTML
Oh,
book. I'm curious
oh,
if he
oh!
figured out
I was.
how to
I
impact
mean,
that.
it's been 19 years since then.
Wow,
I mean, I'm 29 now,
yeah,
and he gave me that book when I was 10 years old. So, not sure what. I mean,
where he
we
is.
we, we got to separate ways since then, but
Gotcha.
I hope that he's okay, and he really started. I mean, he initiated my journey, so I would be always grateful for that.
That's so awesome. That's awesome. All right. Well, let's learn a little bit more about Memphis because I know that's why people are here. Tell us about what Memphis is and what it does, how it can improve other
Sure,
developers'
sure.
lives.
Definitely. So maybe a quick context of what a message broker is. Before diving into Memphis itself, so a message broker, for the people that watching us right now and not so familiar with the term, because sometimes it can be shown as messaging queue or messaging bus. So they are basically from the same family, but there are some minor differences that really that are important to understand. So a message broker is a messaging bus that also acts as a temporary store for events and moving data. It enables many use cases, but I think the most popular one is data streaming pipelines, which is, I would say, the most major one that we are focusing on. Um, so basically, data streaming pipelines moving chunks of data between different application components and microservices that process your data while in transit. I think that these days you can find message broker basically in any data-driven company, which is basically every second company in the world right now, from Netflix to Uber to Lyft, all the way to small startups, which require to collecting and processing data. And message broker is the core that enables that data movement between the different application and different services. That's like the general idea behind a message broker or a queue in general. So while there are solutions like Apache Kafka, the famous Confluent, Red Panda, which is the newer kid in the neighborhood, and more, Memphis Dev is basically building the first low-code messaging platform that provides a full ecosystem for in-app streaming use cases. So basically, Memphis is a powerful distributed message broker. Okay, so messaging platform, it's the entire ecosystem, but inside the messaging platform, there is a distributed message broker, but with many capabilities embedded inside Memphis, out of the box, like schema management, stream processing, and many more features that developers usually has to build and maintain around their messaging bus on their own. So basically, it's about reducing a lot of the code that developers build around their message brokers, because at the end of the day, like Apache Kafka or Red Panda and other queues are event store or a temporary place to store your data while in transit or while in movement between microservices. And Memphis is all about doing that, but also give you a full ecosystem around it to reduce code from the surrounding.
Okay, so the way that I think what you're saying, the way that Memphis stands out from maybe other message brokers is it reduces the amount of code that you'll have to write as a developer to get some of these message brokers set up.
Exactly. So we are pushing to build a hub of connectors, so a marketplace of connectors, very similar to the simplicity that the SDK of Airbyte, that everyone can just implement their own connector into Airbyte. So Memphis is pushing to build the same ecosystem of connectors that would be super easy for everyone to implement their own connector for any third-party vendors or consumed other connectors that built by the community. So that's the first one. The second thing is processing. Nowadays, you would need to stitch Kafka or any other broker to Flink, for example, which is another Apache project. So we took both of the world and put it under the same hood. So basically, we're not just providing the ingestion layer or the collection of the data, but we also let you embed processing and application and functions that would process your data while it's inside Memphis. And the third one, it's all about schema management. So when you're working with data, actually not just like big data use cases, but also communication via APIs. I think that many developers, front end developers, back end developers will um, will have this will understand that struggle when a front end developer or back end developers needs to communicate with each other and sharing API schema or API structures and change this key or change that value or change this type. And so this is what we call like the structure of the data. While it goes between microservices, nowadays you have schema registry made by Confluent that basically allows you to do all the serialization, deserialization of data and validate the schema if the producing side produce data the same in a way that the consuming side knows how to handle it and stuff like that. So we are all about collaboration, doing a single source of truth inside Memphis that basically allows both sides to communicate via that schema management, sorry, and make that transformation so both sides would be aligned on the data structure that going through different services. So those three pillars are like the developer experience features that we put in Memphis and we constantly building. And I think that beside that, beside developer experience, there are three more pillars that Memphis is pushing to be like the best of breed in the industry, which are performance. We're doing a lot of our work in the memory and cache layer, and we're doing our best to be the most resilient message broker in the world. So basically, doing everything in our power before you lose a message or your cluster gets crashed, which I think um, helping developers sleep better at night definitely um, worth the efforts. And the third one would be the developer experience, as I've explained before.
I love it all, especially helping developers sleep better at night. I did see
At
how,
the end of the day, it's all about that one.
yeah, because life gets stressful, especially when you're coding. Why don't you? I'm
Definitely.
gonna pull up the screen for you to your screen share, and why don't you go ahead and demonstrate, if you're ready, how Memphis
Sure.
works and what it does.
Sure. So 1 second. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
So in the screen sharing, basically we see Memphis website. We can also get the installation commands through our GitHub repo. We are fully open source, always will be open source. So please feel free, like we are part of the open source community. Feel free to contribute, to visit our GitHub repo, to maybe share your thoughts with us using feature requests and issues. We always welcoming new members. So here we can see like both of the runtimes that Memphis can be installed on, which is one of them is the Docker Swarm for more local environments, laptop environments. If you just want to spin up a Memphis cluster and try out its features. So we have Docker and we also have Elm for more production grade runtimes like Kubernetes. So we provide Elm install or Elm based install package. And so just for the sake of the demo, um, we would choose the Docker version. Let me reshare my screen so you could see my terminal. I copy the command and now, 1 sec, entire screen.
There it is.
Yeah, you can see my terminal.
Yeah. Do you
Awesome.
want to make it a little bit more like a, a little bit more zoomed in? Perfect.
Is it okay now? Okay.
Yes.
So, always stressful to run a live demo,
Yes.
but
Feeling.
hopefully everything will be okay. So basically, what's going on right now is that we're deploying Memphis cluster with Memphis MongoDB version and also Memphis UI. So basically, the Mongo is here just for application state. We store what happened in the management wrapper and in the UI inside Mongo. It's not where data store itself. The data is stored on Memphis cluster itself, and we are fully ready to start. So basically, that's the notes that says here we can go into the dashboard, and if we want to connect our SDK to Memphis, so that would be 6666 port and root and Memphis for user credential. Can you see my my login screen right
Yes,
now?
I can see it.
Awesome. So reaching out to Memphis for the first time, you would get a sign up model. And let's quickly write our email. Steph.
Also, I never told you, but I really like the designs for Memphis, like the little.
Thank you, thank you. Actually, we get it a lot. People
Oh,
love the brand.
yeah,
The idea basically behind the brand would be to bring colors to a very, I would say, um, grayish topic like that data,
yeah,
and that's also what's going on. What's the origin behind the name Memphis,
yeah,
to create a vibrant atmosphere around the application itself.
yeah. That's fair.
So when we first sign up to Memphis, after we doing the sign up, which is basically our first user to the system, our first root user,
Mhm.
we get the next steps model, which basically guide us through the very first steps of creating our first station, our first factory. If someone is familiar with Kafka, station is basically our terminology to a topic. So I'll quickly go with the wizard itself, and we will see the magic happen. So
Okay.
factory name would be a demo, station name would be demo station as well. I might need to change some things in my code later on. So retention type, inside a topic or inside a station, we basically can say it's always be temporary place for data. So we have to choose some retention type. So it's have to be based on time, size, or messages. You can choose based on your use cases,
Mhm.
based on your use case. So just for the sake of our demo, I will choose a retention type based on messages, and I will choose 10 messages. So basically, in any given time, our station will store 10 messages at maximum. So we cannot push more messages, I mean, more than 10 messages, and it will create an automatic cycle. So the last one and the first one that got in will be removed and um,
God.
sort of a FIFO.
Okay.
Um, so storage type, let's choose memory. We know how to work in the memory layer and not just persistency on file. um, Username, let's call it demo
Cool.
demo user, create it, demo user, and connection token Memphis. Both of them we will need it for our SDK connection.
Okay.
Here we can create our first producer. So we have different type of languages that we support right now: Go, Node.js, TypeScript, Python. And for our demo, we will choose Node.
And for people who may not know what a producer is, what is it?
Basically, let's see it as we have the station in the middle, and we
Mhm,
have producer on the left
mhm,
and consumer on the right. So basically, two different services: one producing the data and one consuming data.
mhm.
It doesn't mean that a consumer cannot be also a producer. It also, I mean, the same consumer can also produce the data that it consumed to a different station. And that brings me to another discussion that we should totally have someday about building a distributed microservices based streaming pipeline. But that's basically the building block for it. So
Gotcha.
Node.js, I will quickly go to a hey, what does this directory do in here? Demo with L.
I think you did this.
So I already installed Memphis package before, but we can definitely do it again
Okay.
using npm package manager, and that's it. And here I can just copy our with time, okay. And here I can just copy like a demo code just for you to be able to quickly onboard Memphis and start moving data
Hmm.
to it and from it. So producer data, I already created like such a such a
Perfect.
code. Let's change this one um, to our
The
demo
demo
user,
user, yeah.
and we called our station demo station. Awesome. So simple application. Basically, it will produce 100 messages with the message "Hello World" in it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, after clicking next, it will wait for produce data. We can skip it, but just to make sure we did everything correct, we will produce data.
There it is.
Success. Create your first producer. Now we'll create our consumer side, the thing that the application, the service that basically consume data.
Mm-hmm.
So we will open another window and we will consume the data from it.
Nice.
And, demo user, right? Yeah. So now with consumer, and
Nice.
as you can see, we published 100 messages, but because of the retention type based on messages, and we configured 10 messages at most,
It
we
only.
only consumed 10 hello world messages.
Gotcha.
So going back here, success, we created our first consumer. That's it. Let's go to the station. And here we can see the producer that is currently live and producing data. And here we can see our consumer, which is live and also consuming data. Here we can see the messages that are inside the station at the moment. Usually, when we work with Kafka and other solutions, getting the internals of what's going on inside the topic or inside the station is really, really rough. You have to configure several stuff to get that observability. So, again, making developers' life easier, happier, we put it right in the middle,
Yeah.
and we can see each message with all of its metadata and the payload itself. And now I wanted to demonstrate um, a quick scenario of poison messages. So basically, sometimes, not sometimes, actually, it's happened really often.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some producers, because in modern organizations we have hundreds of producers, hundreds of consumers, each one consuming data of different producers, and sometimes something happened, some new producer joined in and
Mm-hmm.
sending message that the other consumer
Okay.
for some reason not so and was not able to consume it and not acknowledging the message. So
Yep.
basically we have a function called acknowledge, um, which basically says, I received the message, I process it, don't send me the same message again.
Mm-hmm.
So when the service on the other side gets crashed or didn't process the message correctly, it will not act the message. So
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to go into an infinite loop of getting the same message again.
Over
We
again.
want to stop everything. We want to freeze the situation, notify the developer, tell him, hey, something is went wrong and you need to fix it because certain consumer cannot consume the messages.
Yeah.
And imagine the scenario that consumer is basically responsible for payments or Stripe transactions. So at
Mm-hmm.
the moment your organization is not able to receive payments,
Mm-hmm.
which can be a huge damage. So to emphasize this scenario, I've prepared like a small. Actually, we can use the same producer.
Nice.
I will run it in a sec, and just to show the code for it for for a second. And consumer poison.js. So basically, what that code means is that we're creating another consumer from a consumer group called BICG,
Mm-hmm.
which says the max message deliveries that I'm able to receive before I'm dropping the message would be two. So if Memphis tried to send me the same message two times and I didn't acknowledge it, stop sending it to me.
Mm-hmm.
In other brokers, it basically means that that message gone, but Memphis um, created something that called a dead letter station,
Okay.
which basically gets created automatically, store that poison message, that unacknowledged message on the side,
Mm-hmm.
let the developers know that there is something wrong,
Mm-hmm.
fix it, and then resend it to the problematic consumer. So that's basically what we are about to see right now. Um, and here we can see that if I'm getting a message with with the payload of "Hello World," acknowledge it. If it's something different than that, I will not be able to consume it.
Gotcha.
So
I was just gonna ask, how did you make it not receive it? But you just showed us.
yeah, just uh, just for the sake of authenticity, so people won't think it's magic or something. So consumer poison.js, fire up this one. So it receives hello world and it knows how to process it, so everything is okay and it gets acknowledged. Here we can see the BICG and my consumer, and everything is okay.
Mhm.
But what happens if we start to produce data with the word or with the phrase hello world one?
Mm.
So producer poison demo user, and here we can see that we're about to produce data called hello world one. Let's fire up this one. Node producer poison,
And then it says,
and our consumer exactly, and our consumer is saying sorry, it's a message I can't handle.
yeah,
And what happened right now is basically that here we can see 10 poison messages. So basically, it received messages that it could not acknowledge.
yeah,
Uh, and if I will go to that letter queue, I would see all of those messages. So we didn't drop any messages. We didn't lost any message.
yeah,
Um, and what happened right now is basically I can do two things. I can say maybe it's a resource issue. Let's just try to resend it to the same CG again.
hmm,
We didn't see this one because because it happened too fast. But if I maybe I'll do something like that and retry to send them,
there it
and
is.
again the same consumer did not acknowledge the messages because it doesn't know how to handle it.
Yeah,
But if I will close it for a sec, the consumer poison, and all of a sudden I know how to handle those messages because the developer
fixed.
fixed the issue. Then I will fire the application again. We can see two things now. I don't receive the messages immediately because Memphis again respect the idea that it tried to send two times the same messages, so it won't send the message again until the developer will say that I'm ready, resend it again. I think now I would be able to consume it. So going back to the dead letter queue,
Hmm.
just to see our fancy graphics, so basically, what happened here is we can see like the context of a specific message. We
Hmm.
can see the CG that was not able to consume that message, and we can resend it. So I will resend the message, and now it's
Okay.
get acknowledged. So that's the main idea of the dead letter queue, and I think that really emphasized the idea behind Memphis of resiliency to never lose a message.
I love
So I
it.
will in the dead letter queue, and that's really we're still in building the entire building blocks of Memphis, and so more features are about to come in the coming months actually, but really that demonstrates the amount of work that developers don't need to do when using Memphis and not the other.
Already at the main building blocks, it's really interesting to me. And could you share again, because I just wanted to point out one part that I really like.
Oh,
One,
sure.
one, I did like the poison message feature where you can like, or the dead letter send where you can like resend stuff. But I also liked how you visualized it to see like where the producer is and how the data is coming in through there, and then where the consumer is. I'm not sure I've seen that from other message brokers, but it's not like I've explored a whole bunch. And then I also liked where when it found the poison message, instead of like it being like green little data floating,
Yeah,
it turns red. So I thought that was great to visualize, especially if you're someone that's new to the world of message brokers.
definitely, definitely. And again, that's like the simplest use case of all. And in modern organizations, in modern applications, like I mean, Netflix engineering blog constantly uploading new content from the data platform, and there you can see like literally thousands of producers, thousands of consumers, and you get lost really, really quickly. So that's the meaning behind the visualization that we try to bring to the table.
Yes, I love it. And we do have one question in the chat that says, "Is the
Please.
produced data held in memory if not immediately consumed?" I think he's mentioning when we said like the retention rate was only 10 messages.
Yeah, so I will quickly read it once again. So, is the produced data held in memory if not immediately consumed? Exactly, exactly. It doesn't mean that it doesn't that it's not persistent. So it's still persistent and as a redundant storage behind it, but it does stay in the memory until it gets consumed. Yeah,
So perfect. Thank you. And if anyone else has more questions, feel free to put them in the chat and I will highlight them. But for now, I have more questions for you. So I've
please.
already gotten a chance to try out Memphis and stuff like that. So I think it's cool. And even seeing you demo it again really brought more context to my mind. So I have less questions about the demo, but more about like you and how people can contribute. Um, you talked a little bit about your motivation for building Memphis, but would you want to elaborate on it a little bit more too?
About why we built Memphis in the first place.
Yeah.
Definitely, we've. I mean, I will not speak about myself, but I will speak about my friends and the rest of my co-founders,
Hmm.
which are basically the most talented people I've ever met. I mean, they are really gifted developers and gifted data engineers, and they really had struggles with um, using Kafka.
Mm.
Now, Kafka is a huge product with a huge community and is great and robust solution, definitely. But I think that these days developers as the hardest job in the world, right? You get in you get in the office in the morning, you get some task from your CTO, you know what you need to do in general, but you really can't draw the entire steps that you need to perform until you get there. So
Yeah.
developers are really, really busy with many stuff, many technologies, many tech stacks. And I think that such a crucial component like your messaging bus or messaging queue, message broker, shouldn't be something to worry about. It should be something that supports your efforts. It should be something that supports your code. Your I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about extracting value from your data, right? Not moving data around and not handling your message broker. So I think that's the main idea behind Memphis. Doing a lot more with data, with a lot less time and a lot less code and efforts and resources and headaches, really.
Yeah, yeah, and I completely understand. It's nice to hear people admit that maybe sometimes Kafka can look scary um,
It
for
does. It
using. Yeah,
does. It does. It does. And it's perfectly okay.
yeah,
And um, I really respect. I mean, I'm genuinely respect Kafka, and I
yeah,
think it's great for many use cases.
yeah.
But I also think that sometimes it can be a huge overkill, and you should try Memphis.
Yeah, understood, understood. Um, how can people, so let's say people are interested, they're into this, they think it's a great idea and they want to be able to contribute their skills to Memphis. How can they do that?
So first of all, I mean, use Memphis and just share your thoughts with us,
Yeah.
and that's like the number one, I think, the number one contribution and help that any project can have from the community.
Yeah.
So if you can share your feedback with us and thoughts and ideas and features that you would love to see, that would be amazing. And
Hmm.
the second thing is like contribution. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to push code, create pull requests and stuff like that. You can just, I mean, we have contributors that literally add a word in our README, QA a certain feature, um, share their thoughts about certain documentation section. So it can be all the way from doing QA feedback to code. We're accepting everyone,
Hmm.
and would really love to see everyone in our Discord and in our community.
Yeah, let me put the website for y'all on here, even though it's a pretty simple website. If you all are interested, you can find them at memphis.dev. It'll have links to the repo, it'll have links to the Discord, and their Twitter and other things that you can check out. And also, it should have the contributing guidelines so you can figure out how to make a contribution, which I'm
We
going.
always yeah, we always try to do it as, we always try to modify it and build it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
If you want to contribute and the guide is still not very straightforward, please reach out in any way, like, I mean, through Discord, through my email. I would love to chat with everyone, and really doesn't have to be necessarily directly to Memphis. If you have any question regarding data engineering, developing, career questions, even I always welcome and happy to meet new people.
Yes, and I loved earlier what you said about the biggest contribution they could probably give to you is actually using the product and giving you feedback. I remember B Dougie, who created open source, always says that too. He's like, I like to have like people who are testing the product and using it so I can know if like it's useful to others. All right, cool. So we
Definitely.
figured out your motivation, we saw the demo, we figured out how people can contribute, and there was a question in from the audience which we answered. Now I'm moving from the technical questions to non-technical. I hope you're ready. What's your
For sure.
favorite food?
So many of them. Yeah, I've I would say pizza.
Pizza? Yes, I love
Yeah,
pizza. It's simple, but it tastes so good.
that's
Like,
simple and gets the job done.
yeah, the combo of sauce and cheese and like grain or whatever is always good. Like,
Always works. Always works. Yeah.
okay, and then my next question for you is, what's your favorite Beyonce song? I'm assuming you like music
Oh,
because you named it Memphis and you talk about Elvis and stuff like that. So,
I love Beyonce,
yes,
and I mean, in Israel, please, if by any chance Beyonce hear us right now,
Beyonce is watching a GitHub.
come to Israel. Come to Israel. Like, I mean, like, Israel is waiting for you. And yeah, I love her, and actually running. Yeah,
Running?
that's
Maybe
the
I don't
name, I
even know
think.
that song. Hold on. Running by Beyonce. Oh yes. Okay. Cool. Okay. I call it a different name.
Uh,
I
oh,
think it's the Naughty Boy song. Is that what you're talking about?
yeah,
Okay. Cool.
yeah. Please don't ask me to sing it. It won't be nice.
Now time to sing. I'm just kidding. No, I would not do that to you. That would be
Definitely.
nerve wracking. Um, but thank you so much. This was a great stream for me. And I hope it was for you as well. I'll probably upload this to YouTube in the near future. But thanks for showing us Memphis. Thanks for working to make things like message brokers, even though it may sound like a little bit more boring, like a message broker may sound boring. Thanks for trying to make it more exciting and easier to navigate. And also, thanks for whoever tuned in. Thanks for listening. And I will,
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for
yeah,
joining us today.
thanks for
And
joining.
thank you, Rizel. And again, it's basically at the moment you can find a really fancy, strong, powerful message broker, but we are heading towards a very interesting, fascinating places that will take data engineering and data pipelines to a whole different places. So I really encourage everyone to stay tuned and follow us.
Yeah, I definitely will. I want to see how Memphis evolves. Yeah, you also go ahead, try out Memphis. They have a sandbox that you can try out Memphis in, and give them your feedback. Join their Discord. I will let everyone go now. Thank you so much, and bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Okay.